Hey everyone, welcome back to the brewery. Today I'm going to show you a new process that I have the equipment to do here regarding my fermenter. I just finished brewing a batch of oatmeal porter, so we have a very dirty fermenter at the moment, and I'm simply going to disconnect some other things that we'll get into in detail later. But what I want to show you is the cleaning process, and specifically the clean in place process that we're going to use today. So bear with me for just a quick second while I disconnect some things, and I'll see you back in a minute. Okay, so I've got just all my accessories unhooked at the moment, and the first thing I'm going to do to start the cleaning process is connect my drain hose here. This is just a cam lock fitting to my tri-clover cam lock adapter, and run this down into just kind of a drain bucket. What we're going to do then is open up the main butterfly valve at the bottom, and we're basically doing sort of yeast dump, just getting any additional junk out of the fermenter at this point. So I'm going to run in and get myself a bucket of hot water and dump that right down in here just to help push all of that additional loose debris out the bottom of the fermenter. So I have here just about 1.5 gallons of hot water. I'm going to dump this in. And I should mention, we are downsizing quite a bit here from our 1.5-inch drain to our 1/2-inch barb. And so depending on the nature of the beer you've made and how much trub you have at the bottom, we may have to get rid of this drain and just put a jar or something up closer on the other side of this 1/2-inch barb. But we'll see if it drains out as is for starters. It looks like in our case it's not going to drain. That's no problem. We'll just close the valve, remove our hose for a second. You can see that 1/2-inch cam lock barb is clogged, which is not really a big surprise. So all we've got to do is remove our barb. I'm going to have a towel ready here just for the little bit of junk that drains out, and instead we'll use a jar. I'll use my blow-off container here, and we just want to catch this first little bit of junk separately. So we'll open the butterfly again and be ready to shut it off quickly. That's all it took, is that little bit of junk out of the way. So now we'll switch back to our cam lock. Reattach the hose, and hopefully this time it'll drain. Okay, so that's going to be a majority of our loose debris. And now I'll show you inside here what it's looking like before we start the CIP process. You can see in here we have our krausen ring up at the top, kind of baked on. We've got quite a bit of yeast and sediment running down the cone, plus quite a bit of debris in the bottom, the elbow, and the butterfly, and all the other fittings. So we'll go ahead and get set up for the CIP now. The first thing I like to do is flip my racking arm face up. So that way we have access into that racking arm elbow, and it's facing up to try and clean it as best we can. Next, I'm going to take a couple of my hoses. I use all half-inch hose and half-inch cam locks for the different processes here. We're going to take one long one. We'll get back to that in a second. Take our short one and go from the output at the bottom of our fermenter, and we'll go to the input of our pump. This is just an Anvil Brewing pump. And so in detail here at the bottom of the fermenter, what I've got is the stock butterfly. I've got an additional TC clamp, an 1.5 TC to a 1/2 cam lock, and that's it for this process. So that'll hook on there, go to our pump. Our pump's going to push that back up, and it's going to go to our mini CIP ball. So this is the MoreBeer mini CIP, and this is the Gnarly tri-clamp ferrule or tri-clamp bulkhead at the top of our fermenter lid. So I'm just going to grab an additional clamp here. And this also, the CIP ball has an additional 1/2 cam lock barb on it. That's a female barb. So we'll lock our CIP in place, put the lid on, and then attach our other end of our hose right there to the top. Alright, we're ready to get started here. So what I've done is gone inside and gotten 3 more gallons of hot water. And now I'm going to take my PBW, and on the back they specify to CIP fermenters they want 3/4 of an ounce per gallon of water. I never really measure this, I just kind of use a common sense amount. So I'm going to say we're about 3 ounces there, just roughly speaking. So I dump that into my hot water, and now I'm going to dump my hot water into my fermenter. So we'll just kind of get the lid out of the way here for a second. Harder with the hose attached, I'm realizing. And we'll dump our water right in the top. Okay, so now we'll clamp on the lid. A good rule of thumb with any brewing process is make sure that your valves are all in good shape, or your hoses are connected, or whatever the case is, before you go transferring liquid or dumping 3 gallons into a certain thumb with any brewing process. If you're transferring anything or dumping a large amount of liquid into a certain place, like I just did, make sure that your valves are shut, or if your valves are open, that your hoses are attached, and you're not going to have a major spill on your hands. So Now that we've got the liquid in there, we clamp the lid back on. We'll attach our hose to the top here. Now I'm going to open the butterfly at the bottom and open the ball valve on my pump, and we'll go ahead and kick on the pump. Now you can hear the CIP ball spinning in there. According to the instructions, we're going to go for 25 to 35 minutes. So we'll go for about 20 and then check it, since this is a pretty small vessel and has a pretty light amount of debris based on the beer that we did. So we'll check back in 20 minutes and see how it looks. Alright, so we have about 5 to 10 minutes left in the process. What I like to do at this point is I'm going to actually add in my wort chiller. This is my plate chiller here, and an additional hose, because these were all of the items that I used earlier about a week ago during the brewing process. And so while I'm cleaning, I might as well incorporate these items to have them be cleaned as well. So all we're going to do for that is turn off the ball valve here that's leading up to the top of our fermenter. We'll disconnect the hose, and we're going to lose a little bit of liquid there, so have a towel ready. There we go. And now we'll hook this up to our chiller, and I want to try to do this in the reverse of the way that it was used, so that I'm sort of back flushing it. So if I was doing this the way that it was used, my inlet was here and my outlet was here. So now I want to have my outlet be where the in was. And the way I'm determining that is the garden hose goes opposite of your in and out for the beer. And so my garden hose in is here. So now we're actually going to keep that the in on the beer, because that would be backwards from when it was previously used. So we'll hook this up. Now all we got to do is open our ball valve again and turn the pump on. It'll take it just a little bit, and you can hear our ball starting to spin. So we'll go another 10 minutes and check back in. Okay, time's up. So at this point, we're going to do our best to spill as little as possible while we unhook all the hoses and drain our water. So the first thing I do is I'm just going to shut my valves while I think about the best way to do this. If I go ahead and disconnect my, let's actually disconnect from here, from our plate chiller. And I like to have a towel ready here at all times, just for these little bits of spills you'll have. But we'll drop this down into a drain bucket. Disconnect from the other end. Not bad. And now if we open both of our valves, we'll be draining our entire fermenter into our drain bucket. In the meantime, I'm just going to drain any additional out of the extra hoses and the chiller. And we'll dry up our little mess. And now that we're drained, close the valve again. And one of the final steps of the process is we now have to run a rinse cycle. So we're going to fill up the same amount of water and go the same amount of time, about 25 minutes, with just clean water. So I'm going to hook everything back up. And before we start that process, we'll take a look inside and see how everything's looking for cleanliness. So I'll just get these hooked up and we'll take a look in the top of the fermenter. What do we have in here? How about that, everybody? Our krausen ring is gone. All of our sediment and yeast in the bottom is gone. And all that we're left with is a little bit of sudsy PBW residue, which should go away now with our rinse cycle. So we'll put this back on. I'm going to go get my 3 gallons of water inside, and we'll get it started, and I'll show you in 20 minutes when we're all done. Okay, so that's it. We're just going to drain things now, and I'll show you how things look inside. One thing I forgot to mention is once you're totally drained, we're just going to crack this racking arm with a towel underneath it, and you'll get that maybe ounce or half an ounce of junk out of there. There would be a way, if you wanted to CIP your racking arm along with the whole process, if you had a T-fitting that was half on 2 ends and 3/8 on the other, you could hook your racking arm in series with everything else. I don't really see the need to do that. So I guess if you really wanted to, you could unscrew your racking arm later and soak that in cleaning solution. But for now, we're just going to unhook our hoses. Have our towel ready as always. And we'll just open the valves here into our drain bucket. Get one more look inside here now that we're all set. You can see it does a really thorough, nice job. Alright guys, so that's it. CIP in an Anvil Crucible using an Anvil brew pump. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more brewing and Anvil equipment reviews and videos, make sure to subscribe, like, and share, and I'll see you on the next one.